Next, we're going to go through 10 best practices and how they should be a part of an organisation's policies to mitigate the risk of data leakage and hopefully prevent an expensive breach. First tip for avoiding a fine is to make sure that any data stored is well organised and readily available if someone asks for it. Whether that be an individual, business or auditor, it must be quickly and accurately available on request, and a valid explanation and reason for storing it needs to be provided. Secondly, as part of an organisation's housekeeping, it's a good idea to regularly delete any information that's already served its purpose, and make sure that no data is kept unnecessarily and without its owner's consent. If you have no reason for it being there, then it needs to go. GDPR compliance requires that data is stored securely and protected against unauthorised access. So ensuring data is physically secure and any servers are under lock and key is crucial, as well as all hard copies kept in a fireproof safe that will only be accessible to authorised personnel. Data also needs to be protected from remote access, so antivirus software and firewalls should be up to date on all devices, and measures should be put in place to stop malicious hackers from gaining access and compromising important business critical systems. Next, I'd suggest creating a risk assessment and a record of security measures that can be rolled out to all staff. This can be used to demonstrate the business's best practice for data protection should an auditor come to visit. If you demonstrate a reasonable effort to protect the sensitive data you control, this will often work in your favour in the event of any issues being raised. It's also important to create a clear, fair processing policy or privacy policy that explains to people what data is being collected, why it's being collected, how it will be used by the organisation, and who it will be shared with. The GDPR requires that this contains no confusing jargon, it's clear, concise and comprehensive, and this again will show transparency and demonstrate sound business practice. The GDPR requires that companies are transparent with people's personal data, and it gives control of that data back to the individual that it belongs to. And this means that if a business has any data of its suppliers, customers, or even employees, it must be stored securely and be readily available on request. In the event that any stored information is requested, there must be a response within 1 month, and it must be delivered accurately, in full, and free of charge. So it's a good idea to create a process for this, and also a process for actually deleting data when that's also requested. When the GDPR came into force, consent to use data for marketing was changed from opt-out to opt-in, meaning that consumers now must take action to tick the box that gives them permission to use their data. So it's advisable to have a clear and positive opt-in policy that's kept as evidence with the rest of any stored data. If someone opts out again, it's then vital that a rigorous and thorough process to ensure that they don't receive anything from that moment on comes into play. Failing to do this is an easy way to get caught out by complaints and later be fined. Appointing a data protection officer or DPO is advisable, someone who will be responsible for implementing the procedures and policies I've just gone through. Initially, it might be a good idea for senior management to take on the role and then delegate these responsibilities once a thorough and complete understanding of how to stay GDPR compliant is gained. Every organisation is responsible for implementing an incident management system, and part of that will involve the designated DPO being responsible for reporting an incident to the governing body who enforces data protection in that country. In the UK, that's the Information Commissioner's Office, or ICO, and this must be done within 72 hours of discovering the breach. It's also worth noting that in the event that you do discover a breach, you need to inform the data subjects, i.e. whose data has been breached, immediately.